Okay, so this is Rekkid Talk with Chris, and what we're going to talk about today is it's going to be another ranking the albums. Basically, I'm going year by year through the 1990s, which is my favorite decade. I'm picking two records from each year, and I'll be honest, most of them are CDs. There's not actually going to be all that much vinyl on this particular episode. It's because, well, I bought lots of CDs back then, didn't really buy vinyl um, all that much until recently, so I don't have a very good collection of 1990s vinyl. There will be a couple, but I'm going to go year by year. I'm going to pick two records from each year. A lot of it is just be to kind of give you guys a good idea of sort of my taste in music, because a lot of my favorite bands are going to be represented. This shouldn't necessarily be thought of as this is my 20 favorite albums of the 1990s. Because there are some years, particularly earlier in the 90s, I would probably pick more from, and some of the later 90s years less from if I was making a strictly top 20 albums of the 1990s, irrespective of year. And I didn't pick more than one uh, album per group either. So we're going to start with 1990. And so here, so there's the CD booklet, Jane's Addiction, Richard Low, D-Lo, Habitual. Um, so I bought this probably when I was in college. It's used. You can still, I try to remove the sticker of the used price on it. This is, of course, the censored version with Article 1 um, rather than the actual shocking picture. And my other choice from 1990 is going to be Depeche Mode Violator. Now, when I was a teenager in the 80s, if you'd have said I would eventually like Depeche Mode, I would have denied that. I didn't was not into them at all. This is one of those groups that I was completely wrong about when I was a teenager. 1991, these are going to be some pretty obvious grunge guy choices for me. I think you know this one. Nirvana, Nevermind. And um, I think this group deserved more attention than they ever got. Mudhoney, every good boy deserves fudge. This is probably Mudhoney's best. 1992, go with my favorite Sublime, 40 Ounces to Freedom. And really, Sublime was kind of like putting in a blender a lot of things I like. So there's like some punk, and there's some hard rock and metal, and there's some hip hop, and there's some reggae, and there's some like jam bands elements, and they're all kind of like blended together. Sublime was really cool. Of course, not a good ending there. And then also, this will get a little bit, most of my Americana, alt country, whatever the hell you want to call this genre, country music for white, liberal white people. Here's Uncle Tupelo, March 16th through 20th, 1992. So this is my favorite Uncle Tupelo album. Of course, they split up and became, you got Jeff Tweedy, of course, and Wilco, Jay Farrar in Sun Volt. But this is them together, Uncle Tupelo. 1993 will actually do vinyl for both of my picks for 1993. So Liz Phair, Exile in Guyville. Um, and she never really topped this album, in my opinion, but this is just a wonderful, wonderful, great album. Then I'm not a huge hip hop guy. I don't own a lot of hip hop. Most of the hip hop I do know is like your late 80s, early 90s era stuff. And your Public Enemy, your Run DMC, Eric B. and Rakim. The one I'm going to put on the list is Enter the WuTang 36 Chambers. I mean, it's just you got chess boxing and Shaolin, and WuTang is just so wonderfully weird. So, Enter the WuTang. All right, back to CDs. Really like Sonic Youth. I don't think this is maybe a sort of a contrarian choice because if I ever do a ranking the albums of Sonic Youth, this album's probably going to be very, very high on my list, higher than I think on most lists. Experimental Jet Set, Trash, and No Star. It's such a silly name, but I kind of like that name. So, um, Androgynous Mind, that's Bull in the Heather. It's really good stuff. Obviously, Goo and Dirty and Washing Machine, also good albums. And if you go back into the 80s, of course, Daydream Nation. Sebadoh's group I like as well. You're thinking, oh, if you know the Sebadoh discography, you're thinking, oh, 1994, he's going to go come out with Bake Sale, which I do like. But I'm actually going to give you this rarity. Sebadoh in Tokyo, live at the Loft, July 6th, 1994. And so this is a live Sebadoh record. And I probably listened, I definitely listened to this more than any other Sebadoh record that I own. I like jam bands too. So Fish, a live one, a 1995 live recording of Fish. I own several Fish albums, both studio and live. I've seen them live several times. First time I ever saw them live was in 1996 at Red Rocks in Denver. I tend to think that Fish is better live than on studio albums than the Grateful Dead. I have a contrarian viewpoint that I like Grateful Dead studio albums better than Grateful Dead live recordings, which I think Deadheads would disagree with me. I'll throw some Britpop at you for another 1995 pick. Oasis, What's the Story, Morning Glory. I'll be honest, it's the only Oasis record I own. I don't really feel necessary to go all completist on Oasis, but I like this record. 1996, REM, New Adventures in Hi-Fi. I definitely think this is their best of their 90s albums, and if I do a ranking the albums of REM, this one's going to be really high for me. I definitely think it's by far the strongest of their 1990s material. I know lots of people aren't going to agree, but How the West Has Won and Where It Got Us, Undertow, Ebo the Letter, Bittersweet Me. These are just, I think this is a great album. Beck, Odelay, another 1996 pick for me. Devil's Haircut, The New Pollution, Where It's At. I like the Loser album too. 1997, good old Radiohead, OK Computer. So if you know Radiohead, obviously you know this album. Paranoid Android, and the print's very small, but. And then I was thinking about putting on the Lauren Hoffman Megiddo album that nobody but me seems to know about. I did a video on it recently. It'd been reissued. I have it on vinyl, but instead I put on a Slater-Kinney record, Dig Me Out. Again, I would not say this is not my favorite Slater-Kinney record. I'd probably go with One Beat from 2002, I think. But this is a very good record as well. 1998, one of my choices will be Whole Celebrity Skin. I like this better than Live Through This. I know people say that Billy Corgan wrote a bunch of the songs on this album. Well, if he did, he wrote some pretty good songs. And so, let's see. Malibu, Hit So Hard. Reason to Be Beautiful, Celebrity Skin, Northern Star. Northern Star might be my favorite Whole song ever. So Whole, Celebrity Skin from 1998. And then if you saw my very first episode, I did ranking the albums of Juliana Hatfield. Even though I actually ranked 1993's Become What You Are and 1995's Only Everything higher than this. Since I don't like as much of the 98 stuff as like your 91 through 94, 91 through 95, 1998 Juliana Hatfield Bed. When she did the live stream of this a couple months ago, it was great. And so you've got songs like I Want to Want You, Swan Song, Sneaking Around. This was the album. This was her Pissed Off at Atlantic Records album. Um, Bad Day, You Are the Camera. If you never checked this out, give this a check out. 1999, we got the debut from the White Stripes. I actually have a lot of White Stripes on vinyl, but I don't have this one yet. Although I think I will. I think the next Vault from Third Man Records. I think I am getting this one on vinyl. So, and then some Rage Against the Machine, The Battle of Los Angeles. Again, I probably actually like their debut more. That was in 1992, a really, really competitive year. Battle of Los Angeles, my second favorite Rage album, 1999. And so that's just kind of 20 albums I like from the 90s, 2 from each year. Gives you a good sense of kind of my musical taste. Some of these groups I'm probably going to talk about in future ranking the albums, or um, um, if some of these people are still putting out good albums nowadays, I'll talk about those. Or if there are some really hidden gems. Most of these are pretty obvious. There's not a lot of hidden gems in this bunch. Um, but we'll talk about that in future episodes.